Just one human ship. Why the galaxy realized it was enough. The ship was modest, rectangular, painted in shades of gray, with engines that hummed softly. But it carried something far more remarkable than its design. A crew of humans, beings who had never left their home galaxy until now. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge, staring at the starfield through the reinforced viewport. Her hands rested lightly on the control panel, but her mind was sharp, calculating every possibility. "Approaching the wormhole exit," she said calmly. Her voice was steady, but the weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders. This mission was humanity's first step into a galaxy that had never known them. Every decision, every move, could mean life or death. "Sensors are picking up multiple anomalies," her first officer, Commander Kale Rin, reported. "Energy fluctuations, unidentified ships, they're observing us." Alara nodded. "We expected attention. Keep shields at minimum, maintain course. Let's see what we're dealing with." Through the viewport, faint lights shimmered like fireflies. Not stars, ships. They moved with smooth precision, far beyond anything humanity had built. Sleek hulls glinted with alien metals, and strange symbols blinked on their sides, unreadable but intimidating. The aliens had seen the humans' emergence through long-range scanners and were curious. But curiosity, in the wrong hands, could turn lethal. One of the alien ships transmitted a message. Its form was incomprehensible at first, a combination of light pulses and subsonic vibrations. Alara's communications officer, Lyra, worked quickly, deciphering the code. "They're amused," she said. "They call us a single, insignificant ship, one human vessel." "What threat could this pose?" they asked. Alara smiled faintly. "They underestimate us. That's always the first mistake." The aliens moved closer, forming a semicircle around the human ship. Their formation was elegant, like a dance, but every movement suggested precision and readiness. The humans aboard the Dauntless had never faced such technology before. Yet, rather than fear, a spark of determination lit their hearts. Humans were not known for following predictable patterns. Their advantage had always been creativity and adaptability. "Captain," Lyra said, her voice tight with concern, "they're opening fire. Small energy pulses, no direct attack yet, but they're testing." Alara nodded. "Maintain course, wait for the right moment." She turned to Kale. "Prepare countermeasures, but remember we're not here to fight unless we must. Observation first. Learning is power." The first energy pulse hit the shields. It rippled across the hull, causing a brief vibration through the deck. The humans felt it, but the ship held firm. It was old, yes, but it was sturdy. More importantly, the crew was disciplined. Panic would have been disastrous. Instead, they moved with purpose, each knowing their role. Lyra's hands danced across the console. "I've isolated the pulse pattern. It's predictable. They fire in sequence, then wait. It's almost methodical, too rigid." Alara's eyes narrowed. "That's human advantage, recognizing patterns and breaking them. Kale, reroute power to the maneuver thrusters. We'll use their predictability against them." The ship shuddered as it shifted. In a move that startled the alien fleet, the Dauntless darted unpredictably, weaving through the small asteroid cluster near the edge of the sector. The aliens adjusted, firing more pulses, but their accuracy suffered. The humans' movement was chaotic to their sensors, yet every maneuver was carefully calculated. "Captain," Kale said, his voice tight with excitement, "they're not hitting us. They don't understand, they can't predict human instincts." Alara allowed herself a small smile. "Exactly, that's what they underestimate. One human mind can turn a fleet's strength into weakness." The alien ships paused. They had never faced an opponent that didn't react as expected. Every species they had encountered before followed patterns, strategic, logical, constrained by tradition. Humans, however, acted unpredictably, often combining recklessness with brilliance. It was not strength or technology that mattered, it was imagination under pressure. Meanwhile, the humans themselves were quietly remarkable. Engineer Joran Alex crouched over a maintenance panel, making rapid adjustments. "I can modify our energy output," he called to the bridge. "We can redirect the shields to create energy pulses of our own." Small but enough to confuse their targeting. Alara nodded. "Do it. And Lyra, amplify our communication signal. Let's make them hear us clearly." The human ship fired back, not with weapons of destruction but with bursts of light and signals mimicking the aliens' pulse sequences. The aliens' sensors were overloaded, their algorithms unable to keep up. One by one, they began to retreat slightly, confused and frustrated. "Captain," Lyra said, her voice tinged with awe, "they're retreating. They didn't expect us to counterattack in this way." Alara's gaze remained steady. "They will think twice about underestimating humans again. This is only the beginning." As the immediate danger passed, tension on the bridge eased. Crew members wiped sweat from their brows, their faces showing relief mixed with exhilaration. They had survived the first encounter with the galaxy, and not through brute force but through wit, coordination, and courage. Yet, even in their relief, Alara knew the challenge ahead was immense. This single human ship had drawn attention from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Intelligence reports suggested entire sectors of alien empires were now aware of humanity's existence. Some saw curiosity, some saw opportunity, and some, perhaps, sensed a threat. The human crew, however, saw opportunity. Humans thrived in the unknown. They adapted, invented, and overcame obstacles that others would see as insurmountable. The Dauntless may have been small, its technology modest, but its people carried something far greater, the spirit of humanity. Hours later, the ship settled into a quiet trajectory through a dense asteroid field. The aliens had not pursued further, but the encounter left a lingering tension in the void of space. Crew members worked diligently, repairing minor damages and recalibrating systems. Every movement was precise, disciplined, but not without the spark of innovation. "Captain," Kale said after a pause, "do you think they understand what just happened?" Alara shook her head slowly. "Not yet. They see the ship. They see a single human crew, but they do not yet see the mind behind it. That is the real power, the unpredictability, the ingenuity, the refusal to be constrained by convention." The human crew had already begun to make small improvements to the ship's systems. Using asteroid fragments and onboard materials, they reinforced shields and enhanced maneuverability. No alien had predicted such quick thinking. No alien had expected humans to innovate in the middle of danger. It was a quiet kind of victory, but one that mattered far more than a single battle. Lyra, staring at the alien fleet's last retreating signals, spoke softly. "Do you think they'll come back?" "They will," Alara replied. "And when they do, we will be ready, not because of weapons or numbers, but because we are human. One ship is enough. One crew is enough. We will surprise them every time." Night, or the human equivalent of it, fell inside the ship. Crew members rested in short cycles, but the sense of purpose remained. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy not with firepower or empire, but with ingenuity, courage, and relentless determination. One ship, a handful of humans, had done what many would have thought impossible. They had made the galaxy notice. And somewhere far beyond their sensors, whispers began to spread through the alien empires. One human ship. That was all it took. One human crew, clever and unpredictable. That was enough to challenge centuries of dominance, enough to change perceptions, enough to plant the seed of doubt. Maybe humans were not so insignificant after all. Ilara sat alone on the bridge after her crew had gone to rest. The stars stretched endlessly before her, silent witnesses to humanity's first step into a wider universe. She allowed herself a small smile, not of triumph, but of understanding. The galaxy underestimated humans. They always had, and humans thrived in being underestimated. The Dauntless moved forward, quietly, confidently, carrying the hopes of an entire species into uncharted space. And though it was just one ship, that single vessel had already begun to change the way the galaxy thought about humanity. It was the beginning of something much larger. The galaxy would remember this arrival, not for its size, not for its power, but for the spirit of one human ship and the minds aboard it. And for the humans, that was more than enough. The Dauntless glided through the cold darkness, a small speck of metal and courage in a galaxy that had never seen humans before. The first encounter had been a success, not a victory in the traditional sense, but enough to turn heads across multiple sectors. The aliens were talking now, quietly at first, then in louder voices. A single human ship had defied logic, outsmarted sensors, and survived. That alone was enough to make even the most confident civilizations uneasy. Captain Alara Voss walked along the narrow corridor of the ship, observing her crew as they worked. Some adjusted systems, some studied star maps, and some simply rested, preparing for whatever lay ahead. Every human knew that in space, survival was about anticipation as much as action. Here, in the vast galaxy, the rules were different. Danger was everywhere, but so were opportunity and invention. "Captain," Lyra called from the communications console, "I'm picking up multiple fleets ahead. At least 3 different factions converging near that mining colony. They're heavily armed, warships, fighters, support vessels. They haven't seen us yet." Alara's eyes narrowed. "Approving ground. They want to test humans. Kale, scan the area for obstacles. Asteroid clusters, gravitational anomalies, anything we can use." Kale Rin nodded, running calculations at a speed that would have taken a computer centuries to match. "There's an asteroid belt nearby, dense enough to provide cover but narrow. With careful maneuvering, we can make it our advantage." "Good," Alara said. "Prepare a plan. I want every crew member ready for multiple contingencies. We are outnumbered, but we are not powerless." The Dauntless approached the contested sector cautiously. The alien fleets were arranged like chess pieces, moving in precise formations, their weapons systems scanning the void. They expected fear, predictability, perhaps even surrender. What they did not expect was humans. Engineer Joran Alex worked tirelessly, adjusting power flows and rerouting shield energy. "If we redirect the shields to pulse in sync with the asteroid vibrations," he explained to the bridge, "we can confuse their targeting systems. They'll think we're in a different location than we actually are." Alara smiled. "Exactly the kind of thinking I like. Make it happen." As the humans moved into the asteroid belt, the alien fleets noticed. One of the largest ships transmitted a message: "Retreat or face destruction. One ship cannot defy order." Lyra translated quickly. "They're threatening us. They assume we will flee." Alara's gaze was steady. "And they assume wrong." The first pulse of alien energy weapons struck the asteroid belt. Rocks exploded into fragments, creating a chaotic field of debris. The Dauntless darted between the rocks with a precision that seemed impossible for its size. The aliens fired relentlessly, but their lasers struck only empty space or harmless fragments. Every human maneuver was calculated yet unpredictable, exploiting alien rigidity. "Captain, they're adjusting formations," Kale reported. "They're trying to corner us, but the asteroid field is too complex for them to control fully." Alara nodded. "Good, keep moving. Make them work for every shot." Inside the ship, the crew worked like a well-oiled machine. Every human contributed, not just with technology but with imagination. Humans thrived in improvisation. While the aliens relied on algorithms and protocol, humans relied on intuition, creativity, and courage. Suddenly, a small fleet of alien fighters broke away, attempting a direct assault. The Dauntless had no weapons capable of destroying them outright. Instead, Alara issued an unusual command: "Lead them into the debris cloud. Let's see how they handle improvisation." The fighters followed, thinking the humans were cornered. Then the ship released small, reflective drones, previously hidden. They bounced laser signals unpredictably, creating false images of the Dauntless. The fighters fired blindly, missing every time until they crashed into rocks or retreated in confusion. "Impressive," Lyra murmured. "They don't know how to react." Alara allowed herself a rare smile. "Humans are unpredictable. That is our strength." The alien admirals did not understand this. In their history, fleets defeated fleets. Strategy, numbers, firepower, these determined victory. Humans were not following any known rules. They were improvising, exploiting small advantages, and thinking in ways no alien mind could anticipate. For the first time, the galaxy had a species that could not be predicted, mapped, or controlled. Hours passed. The Dauntless moved deeper into the sector, using the asteroid field as both shield and weapon. The humans had turned defense into offense, confusion into advantage. The aliens, frustrated, called in reinforcements. Entire fleets now converged, expecting a decisive battle. They assumed victory would be easy. One human ship could not possibly hold them off, but the humans were not afraid. Engineer Joran shouted from the control deck, "Captain, I've modified the energy pulse pattern. If we time it right, we can create a chain reaction through the asteroid belt, enough to scatter their formations." Alara's eyes sparkled. "Do it, carefully." The energy pulses shot out, subtly altering the asteroid vibrations. Rocks shifted, creating temporary cover for the humans and chaos for the alien fleets. Ships collided, formation lines broke, and fighters lost cohesion. The Dauntless moved through the chaos with calm precision, exploiting every moment. In the middle of the field, the largest alien dreadnought closed in, its massive guns tracking the human ship. It fired a beam strong enough to tear apart a small moon. The humans, though, had already anticipated it. Using a combination of asteroid debris, reflective drones, and careful maneuvering, they tricked the dreadnought's sensors into targeting empty space. The beam destroyed nothing but rocks. Kale clenched his fists in disbelief. "They're falling apart." "They've never experienced anything like this." Alara's voice was steady. "This is just the beginning. Humans adapt. We find ways where others see none. One ship, one crew can make a difference." Despite their success, the humans knew they could not fight forever. They were a single ship, surrounded by thousands of alien vessels. But humans had another strength, thinking beyond brute force. Instead of meeting the aliens head-on, they used negotiation, trickery, and diplomacy when necessary. Alara transmitted a message, not of surrender but of warning. "We are humans. We do not seek war, but we do not fear it. Leave this sector. You will survive if you choose wisely." The message was translated, and for the first time the aliens hesitated. In their long history, threats came from overwhelming force, not cleverness. Yet here was a species warning them with mere words and unpredictable tactics, and they were effective. An alien admiral communicated back, reluctantly. "One ship cannot hold against fleets." "Why do you not fear death?" Alara's answer was simple, resolute. "We survive because we learn, we adapt, we act when necessary. You underestimate us because you cannot understand us." The aliens did not respond further. For now, they retreated, wary and confused. Across the galaxy, messages would spread. One human ship had resisted multiple fleets, using only ingenuity, coordination, and courage. It was a story that would travel faster than light, shaking assumptions and inspiring fear or respect. Inside the Dauntless, the crew allowed themselves a brief moment of relief, but there was no celebration. Space was vast, and humans had only just arrived. Alara knew that survival meant constant vigilance. The next challenge would be larger, more dangerous. And yet, she also knew that humans had something the galaxy had never seen before. The combination of adaptability, ingenuity, and courage that could turn the impossible into reality. That night, in the quiet of the ship, the crew reflected on what they had accomplished. They had survived not because they were the strongest, not because they had the largest weapons, but because they were human. They had turned disadvantage into advantage, threat into opportunity. And they had done it together, relying on each other's skills, ideas, and courage. In the dark void outside, alien fleets retreated, whispering about the humans. Entire civilizations were starting to realize that something unusual had appeared in their galaxy. One ship, one crew. And already, that was enough to make even the most powerful empires pause and reconsider. Alara watched the stars stretch endlessly ahead. Her ship was small, her crew limited, and yet they carried the hope of a species that could not be ignored. Humans thrived in adversity, and no alien could predict how far their creativity and courage could reach. "Kale," she said softly, "they think one ship cannot matter. They are wrong. One human ship is enough. And when the galaxy realizes that, everything will change." Kale nodded, understanding fully. Humans were not merely surviving, they were making history. And in the vast expanse of space, the story of a single ship with its daring crew would be remembered as the moment the galaxy first understood. Humanity was something entirely new, unpredictable, and unstoppable. The Dauntless moved onward, leaving behind the confused fleets and entering uncharted space. The human ship had survived the proving ground, but the galaxy was vast, full of dangers, mysteries, and opportunities. And humans were ready to meet them all, not with fear, but with ingenuity, courage, and unshakable spirit. One ship had proven it could survive against overwhelming odds. One crew had proven it could outthink entire fleets. And that was only the beginning. The galaxy was stirring. Word had spread quickly. A single human ship had resisted entire fleets, survived impossible situations, and disrupted the plans of civilizations that had existed for millennia. For most alien leaders, this was inconceivable. For some, it was terrifying. One small vessel carrying humans had become a symbol of unpredictability, audacity, and sheer cunning. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. Sensors were alert, systems humming with quiet efficiency, and the crew was ready. Every challenge they had faced had been a lesson, every danger an opportunity to learn and adapt. Yet now, the stakes were higher than ever. The largest coalition of alien empires in history had gathered, determined to end the human anomaly before it spread further. Lyra, the communications officer, broke the tense silence. "Captain, the coalition fleets are forming. They outnumber us at least 5-1. They're coordinating through a shared communication network. This will be their greatest strike." Alara nodded, calm as ever. "They don't understand humans yet. That is their weakness. Kale, plot a path through the system using every asteroid, gravity well, and nebula. We'll turn their strength into confusion." Kale Rin began calculations immediately. The coalition fleets were vast and rigid. They relied on overwhelming firepower and coordinated attacks, but coordination required predictability. Humans thrived where predictability failed. Joran Alex, the ship's engineer, called out from the control deck, "Captain, I've modified the shield and propulsion systems. We can create a temporary energy cloak bouncing our signature across multiple locations. They'll think we're everywhere at once." Alara smiled faintly. "Exactly, make it so. Humans do not fight like others. We fight smart, and sometimes we fight without fighting at all." The Dauntless entered the Coalition's territory. Massive warships lined the edges of star clusters, and thousands of smaller fighters patrolled in formation. The aliens were confident, arrogant even. To them, a single human ship was an annoyance, barely worth the effort. They would soon learn otherwise. The first attack came as predicted. Energy beams streaked through space, designed to crush the Dauntless instantly. Yet the humans were gone, or so it seemed. The ship's new systems created multiple energy signatures, reflecting beams across the asteroid field and nebula clouds. The aliens fired at shadows, empty coordinates, and illusions of a ship that moved unpredictably. Inside the Dauntless, the crew moved with purpose. Humans had learned to trust their instincts, to improvise, and to act as one. Even the youngest crew members, inexperienced in space combat, contributed to this coordinated chaos. Humans thrived in uncertainty where aliens faltered. Captain, they're regrouping. They realize our tactics are unusual, Lyra reported. Alara's gaze was steady. Good, let them underestimate us. Humans are not predictable. We act where others react. The coalition fleets tightened their net. The Dauntless appeared surrounded, a single ship dwarfed by countless weapons. To any observer, victory for the aliens seemed inevitable. But humans had something else: creativity, courage, and understanding of their opponents' weaknesses. Kale, identify the structural vulnerabilities in their formations, Alara ordered. Lyra, prepare communication probes. We're going to send them a message they can't ignore. The humans didn't attack directly. Instead, they manipulated the battlefield. Using the asteroids and their energy pulses, they forced the alien ships to collide, misfire, and disrupt each other's coordination. The Coalition's own systems became a trap because humans could think like no one else. Then came the decisive move. Alara directed the Dauntless to enter a dense nebula cloud. The ship vanished from enemy sensors, leaving behind decoy signals that suggested it had split into several vessels. The aliens scrambled, attacking phantoms while the real ship moved silently through their midst. Inside the cloud, the humans launched their communication probes. They sent a simple, clear message. Humans do not seek war, but we will act to survive. You underestimate us at your peril. We will not destroy you, but we will outthink you. The message was short, but it carried weight. Across the Coalition, confusion rippled. Alien commanders paused, questioning their orders. How could a single ship, a species they had never encountered, resist fleets and manipulate battlefields without conventional weapons? Lyra's eyes widened. Captain, they're hesitating. Entire commands are holding fire. Alara nodded. Exactly as we hoped. Humans are not feared for strength alone. We are feared for unpredictability and resolve. One ship can change the tide if used wisely. The aliens regrouped, trying to form a new plan. But the humans had already acted again. Using reflected energy pulses, they disrupted the fleet's sensors, causing smaller ships to miscalculate positions, crash, or collide. The largest ships fired blindly, hitting nothing but empty space. Chaos spread through the Coalition ranks, and humans moved with precision, exploiting every mistake. Hours turned into tense standoffs. The aliens realized something that no human needed to tell them. Technology and numbers were not enough. Brilliance, adaptation, and courage mattered as well, and the humans had those qualities in abundance. The turning point came when the Dauntless executed a daring maneuver through the heart of the Coalition formation. Using the nebula's ionized gases and carefully timed propulsion bursts, the ship created a cascade of energy disturbances that temporarily disabled communications across several fleet segments. Aliens turned on each other, believing they had been attacked by multiple ships. Panic spread where confidence had once ruled. Captain, Kale shouted, they're losing cohesion. Their fleets are turning on each other. Alara's expression remained calm, but inside she felt the familiar surge of satisfaction. Humans had done what fleets could not. One ship, one crew had disrupted an entire coalition, and all of it without a single direct destructive strike, only intelligence, improvisation, and daring. Lyra scanned the remaining signals. They're retreating, at least for now. The Coalition doesn't want to risk further losses against a single human vessel. Alara nodded. That's the point. Humans survive because we act wisely, adapt quickly, and think differently. One ship is enough to make even the greatest fleets pause. As the alien fleets withdrew, murmurs spread across the galaxy. Reports reached distant empires. One human ship had resisted fleets, disrupted command structures, and survived impossible odds. The humans had shown the galaxy that victory did not always depend on numbers, size, or technology. It depended on the mind, courage, and unity. Inside the Dauntless, the crew allowed themselves a moment of relief. They had survived the ultimate test, yet their focus remained on the future. Space was vast, and challenges awaited, but they also knew that the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. One ship had proven a truth that would echo across civilizations. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and courageous. Captain Alara Voss addressed her crew in the quiet of the bridge. "We did more than survive. We showed the galaxy who we are. Humans are not just another species. One human ship, one crew, can challenge what empires consider absolute. We have begun a story that the galaxy will not forget." Joran Alex smiled, tired but proud. "It's incredible, Captain. One ship enough to make them hesitate. Imagine what more humans could do." Alara's gaze turned outward to the endless stars. "Exactly, but we start with one. We show them what it means to underestimate humans. That is the strength of our species: courage, creativity, and unity. One ship is enough if it carries the human spirit." The crew settled into a quiet rhythm. Sensors monitored space, engines hummed with steady energy, and the Dauntless sailed onward, unassuming yet powerful in its subtle influence. Across the galaxy, civilizations reconsidered their understanding of humanity. The whispers grew into conversation, and conversation into caution. Some alien leaders began to prepare differently, not with weapons alone, but with observation and strategy, trying to anticipate the humans' ingenuity. Yet even they could not predict the full potential of a species that thrived on unpredictability. The human ship moved forward, its course uncharted but its purpose clear. Humans had arrived in the galaxy not as conquerors, but as a species that could survive, adapt, and inspire. They had proven that one ship was enough. One crew, united in courage and creativity, could challenge fleets, civilizations, and assumptions. And for the first time, the galaxy realized a fundamental truth: humans were not to be underestimated. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, indifferent yet observant. The Dauntless glided through the void, carrying humanity into uncharted space. It was small, seemingly insignificant, but it carried the spark of a species that could think, adapt, and endure where others might fail. One ship, one crew, one species. It was enough to make the galaxy pause and reconsider everything it thought it knew. Captain Alara Voss stood silently on the bridge, watching the stars. The galaxy had learned a lesson. It was not strength alone that mattered, but the spirit behind it. One human ship was enough. One human crew was enough. And humanity was only just beginning. The Dauntless disappeared into the depths of space, a single vessel carrying the unshakable truth. Humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget them.